Good evening. You're watching From the 80s View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. Today's guest is Miss Sarah Hummell. How are you, Sarah? How's everything?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Sarah, the benefits of professional development, what say you?
A better work life leads to a life well lived.
Being a part of a team means what?
Strength.
And your journey in politics has been what?
Very unexpected.
These topics and more on From the 80s View. Let's get it. Welcome back to the show. Before we get started, I'd like to give honor to God, who's the head of my life, because without Him, nothing that I do would be possible. I've had an opportunity to do some remarkable things over the last 2 years and meet some remarkable people. And that's all because of Him. I've even had an opportunity to start a new clothing brand, Favored, which is a faith based brand. The number 8 biblically is it means hope and new beginnings, and that's what I'm looking forward to sharing with friends, family, and people around the world. The new brand of Favorite. So now let's bring back our very special guest, Miss Sarah Hummell. Miss Hummel was formerly deputy campaign manager, deputy political director, training and learning director, vice president of business development, and currently the CEO and founder of Retail Politics. Again, welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sarah, before we get into all the important stuff, you share a special person that I share, Mr. George Hemmingson, my brother of a different mother, former basketball colleagues and things like that. Just a little bit, real quickly, lightly. How did you and George meet? Did you saved him? Because he was probably lost and needed to have a special queen come and save him. How did you and George meet?
Yeah, we met right after I had moved back from Washington, D.C. I hadn't even been back 3 weeks, and we met up and best first date of my life. We met, and I used to play basketball, so he challenged me to a game of horse. And next thing I knew, we were in the gymnasium playing horse at 2 in the morning. So it was pretty
Right.
amazing.
So some real life love and basketball. That
Yes,
is awesome. Who won? Just say
he,
you.
I did. I did. I
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
always win.
yeah. Just say you. Just say you. That is awesome. So, Sarah, a little bit. We talked backstage. You have been in retail. You know, your business is retail politics, but you've been in retail. Um, how did that experience, right, help you in what you're doing now? We talked about the benefits of professional development, right? I believe you said at one point in time in retail, you were one of the youngest leaders in the business that you were in the organization that you were in. How does professional development benefit individuals that go through those processes?
Yeah, it just makes you a better leader. It makes you more self-aware. Self-awareness is key driving indicator of how great of a leader you're going to be. But also, if you can project manage, you can manage some budgets and manage people and hire great people, you could pivot to any career that you want if you have those skills in your back pocket.
That is correct. And we were talking. My colleagues and I were talking about strategic leadership and what that looks like. Just read a book by Mr. John Conrad, I believe. Excuse me, Joseph Conrad, called "The Secret Sharer." Right. It's a book that is based on strategic leadership, but in that leadership, there was a captain that was very new, 2 weeks as a captain, and he has a situation where there's a stowaway that comes on from a different ship, and this stowaway had committed a accidental murder, right? And then the captain doesn't want to share that information with the subordinates because he believes that it will deter the goal of what they had. As a leader, Sarah, what kind of challenges have you faced that you had to come overcome, and when you came out the other side, it made you a better leader?
Yeah, I have a super specific example. It was in my retail days, and it was Super Bowl Sunday. All of us leaders were gathered together in Columbus, Ohio at our headquarters, and I'd received a phone call from my store manager of a store outside of Chicago. And he said, the president just walked through my store and didn't say anything to me and walked out. And it was like very much a panic, like, are you sure it was him? What do you look like? And now asking all these questions. And it in fact was the president, and the store was nowhere where it needed to be, where it needed to be looking. And I think that's like that became a moment of such self-awareness of you have to be so open with whom you're working with, that yes, that store was struggling. My boss knew that, but didn't know maybe to what extent. So it's like this almost this motto of you don't die with a secret. You just like have to be open and honest. And if you hold it in, that's more of a failure than saying, hey, my leader, my boss, my coach, it's not where it needs to be. And communication is this key to all of that.
Absolutely. And, as being a former coach and now being an athletic administrator, you find that transparency and and concise communication are keys to success, right? They're the keys that help you drive the vehicle, to drive the things that you're looking to do and accomplish, those common goals that you want uh, to uh, to finish, right? How important, Sarah, in what you did then and what you do now is helping others attain or achieve their goals? How important is that as a leader?
That's super important. And I think it also, in your strategic thinking, that you have to lead people to their strengths. So I'm a global certified Gallup strengths coach, and it's this positive psychology based on data that you can't be what you're not, but you can certainly be a whole lot more of what you already are. So let's find your strengths. Let's coach to those strengths. Let's make you great at those things. And I think being self aware of your own strengths and how you show up individually and how you show up as a team is like crucial to this. And then it just really opens up the lines of communication because people then understand how it is you're showing up every day.
And those are nuggets. And as I say all the time, um, my guests come on here and drop little nuggets and things like that for our viewers to hear and hopefully take in and use those things to help them throughout the course of their career or even the course of their day. You have been a leader of teams. You've been on teams. You said that you played basketball. You were a member of the basketball team. How important is that, one? And then two, how important is it for the team member to do his or her own part to make sure that the common goals can be met or can be achieved?
Yeah, I had a coach who would always remind us we're as strong as our weakest link. And it was the responsibility of the rest of the team who were stronger to get them up to speed because their success was our success. It was mutually shared. And when they fell down, it was our job to pick them back up and help them get to where they needed to go. And I think that so much applies to the work life that you can't do anything alone.
Sure.
You have to be on a team. You have to play with the team. And I'm a huge fan of using the word collaboration versus cooperation because
Okay.
cooperating is like you allow things to happen, but if you're you're laboring together, then you're working as a team. Like in a vacuum, you're cooperating.
Absolutely. And collaboration is something that allows different voices to be heard, right? And it allows different thoughts to happen. Brainstorming occurs, right? Because as a leader, Sarah, you take in a bunch of different thoughts and things that come to different people, right? And you ask for that. That's that democratic leadership style, right? Getting multiple ideas, sit down, swirl them around, and then at the end, Sarah Hummel has to make the final decision, but at least it's based on information that all other constituents, and we'll get to that word in a minute, right? That all other constituents or partners are in that together. Has there ever been a situation, Sarah, where you led a team and you had to make tough decisions that might have um, separated someone from the team, a little attrition?
Yes, I've definitely had to do that, and I did that towards the end of my retail career. I switched to another company and was responsible for multiple stores in multiple states, and the company was failing. The business was not doing well, so I jumped on board when it was looking a little bleak. But when I got here in the district, I went and spent time with everyone. I understood their strengths. I understood where their stores were, and we had a lot of turnover based on the business needs. And then we hired new folks who were willing. And love to think about skill versus will. I'll hire someone with will 100% times over someone with
Sure.
just skill. And a couple months later, the stores were doing great business. I'd only been there like 2 months, and the president of the company called me. He's like, "What are you doing?" And you have the best business in the country. What's happening? It's like, well, it's all about getting the right people at the right place at the right time and in the right job.
Right. Right. And that's true. And then I know some of the area that you're in. I was in retail there in Indianapolis. I was at Bally's Total Fitness right there on 38th and Lafayette Road, kind of close to the neighborhoods that you know over there on that side. And you were so correct that when you bring in good people that buy in to the mission, not your personal mission, but the mission of the organization, the vision of the organization, and the leaders that are leading that mission, success is imminent, right? It comes. It there's no choice but to be successful. So speaking of being someone that has to make sure that we get everything done around here, right? As the leader of the show, I have to go to a break. So Sarah, stay with me, right? We have something more important to talk about, constituency. We have something more to talk about. So when I come back, we'll pick up our that new topic, right? You are watching From the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. We'll be right back after this break.
Renting is everything. It's style at your doorstep, off the runway and into your closet. It's every trend you've been dying to try and every designer you've yet to discover. It's wearing it your way every time and making it count everywhere you go. It's never worrying about what to wear because something new is always coming your way. That's why renting is everything. New styles, top designers, all for a flat monthly fee. Start your subscription at renttherunway.com.
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it?
Welcome back to the show. You're watching From the 80s View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. And before we get back to our guests, I'd like to talk a little bit about my book, How Black Men Overcome Racial Barriers in the Status Quo in NCAA Institutions. It's a narrative inquiry. Wrote this book for one particular purpose. I wrote the book so that individuals like myself that were going or trying to aspire to become Power 5 ADs, men of color that look like me, wanted to give them an opportunity to see that the purpose of looking for mentors or having mentors was beneficial because the research bared that there were three themes that I found after doing the research. Benefits of a role model and what those individuals, men or women, bring to you, right? What they pour into you so that you can get the best out of yourself. Number two, the expectations that the role models had of me, assignments that they gave, making sure that those assignments were completed, making sure that ideas that I had, how we sparse those ideas out, and then to get to the goal. And obviously, I've been an athletic director on more than one level and aspiring to continue to be a Power 5 AD before the end of my career. And then the perceived barriers, whether they were racial barriers or whether they were perceived or real, how can we positively overcome those barriers? Not because I'm a person of color, they're holding me back, they're not giving me an opportunity. Not that. What was it? What did my mentors, what did my role models do to be successful? And how can I mirror or mimic that behavior to have success myself? So that book can be bought on Amazon.com, right? If you'd like to learn more or see more past episodes of From the 80s View, please go to cedricmbrown.org, my website. If you'd like to learn more about the professional services that I provide, counseling, NIL, college eligibility, go to cedricmbrown.org and I will be happy to help you. Or if you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can go to cedricmbrown.org and email me, and then I will get back in contact with you. From the 80s View, the show, it shows Sunday, say that 5 times quickly. It shows Sunday at 6:40 Central, 7:40 Eastern for more open and honest topics on our show. But let's bring back Miss Sarah Hummell. Miss Sarah, there's a special thing about you and about your career, right? And when I was speaking to my brother George, and he kind of shared with me, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a once in a lifetime thing for an individual. And the more and more that I read some of your background and your bio, you have absolutely been an integral part of change, right? And that's a pun too, because I think that was the the tagline, right? You've been a part of change in the world, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in politics and who the whom with whom you've been around, please?
Yes, I would love to, and it's something I would have never imagined for myself. So, after being quite disillusioned with retail and making lots less money than my male counterparts and changing to different companies, thinking it would get better. I just realized it was a pay wage gap problem, not a me problem. It was a big problem. And I've always been a huge fan of politics. And the first piece of legislation that Barack Obama signed into to be was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, meaning women should be paid what men are being paid. And I found myself in Cincinnati, Ohio in 2011, and I quit my job and started volunteering with Barack Obama's reelection campaign in 2011. I worked on the campaign for 18 months. They hired me. I got promoted a couple times, and ultimately, I was in charge of Hamilton County, which is where Cincinnati resides. Very much a southern city, but it can be a red city. But keeping it blue was my priority, because at the time, so goes Ohio, so goes the nation. And in the reelection, it was called the moment after Ohio was called for Barack Obama to win.
That is amazing. And so the $64,000 question um, is our former president really as good at basketball as he says he is?
Yeah, he's an excellent athlete, and he's super competitive, and he is super kind, and he is so present with you when you get to be around him. As if no one else is around. He's just a phenomenal human being. And the best way to describe him is he has this magnificent, humble swagger.
Okay. All right. And then the boss, his boss, right? Miss Michelle Obama, um, in your quest to make change, right? You spoke about the disparity between pay for men and women, which has gone on for far too long, right? What influence did Mrs. Obama, Michelle Obama, have to help in that change, right? To help try to, bridge that gap.
So unfortunately, I didn't get to spend really any time with her as much as I fortunately got to spend with Barack. But you can just see from any speech that she gives that she is in it, and she is so smart and so compassionate. And a great example would be to watch her speech from the convention in 2016, when she says, "When they go low, we go high." That was a really amazing, impactful narrative story of challenge, choice, outcome, something she and Barack probably learned from Professor Marshall Gans at Harvard. And she tells a story. She's not talking about a story like other folks who were on that stage that night or the next night, but she tells a very compelling, passionate story. That the hero of the story is not her. The hero of the story is the audience. We can see ourselves in her eyes, and we can aspire. Like, if she can do it, then we can do it.
Absolutely. And that is amazing. And from, things that I've read, interviews that I've seen, they're both very amazing people. And as I bring all of this together, right, your experiences with our former president, how did that shape you into the leader that you are today? Because you are currently now the CEO and the founder of your own business, which is Retail Politics. How did that shape you into the leader that you are today?
Yeah, I think I had the leadership skills, and I could manage and hire great people. So I had a really successful team in Ohio in 2012, but also then it became much more mission driven. Like, what was at stake? What could happen if not this person elected? And I think the stakes have gotten extremely high now. And I even spent the 2020 election sending 100 million pieces of mail to voters in battleground states, encouraging them to vote by mail and to return that ballot and have their voice count. So I think, it was just the beginning of this itch of fairness and making sure everyone has a seat at the table, and that everyone plays by the same rules, and making it easier for people to have ballot access and to have their vote count.
Sure. And I'm gonna switch to sports a little bit because we have a little bit more time than I thought. With name, image, and likeness coming out right now, and it is heavy into the political scene, right? So it's in every legislation across the country. It may go to a federal legislation if it hasn't already. I know that the NCAA, Mr. Charlie Baker, president, has done some lobbying for the NCAA and things like that. How important is it, Sarah, that we increase equity, right, and kind of make the equality align with that? Because we all know that equity is the access, and equality is just making sure that we have the same things. But we talk about equity all the time. How important is it that we get to a point that the equity is increased to an all-time high?
I think it's more important now than ever. And also, I think with NIL, you can bring in the unionization of teams. I didn't finish college till after the Barack Obama campaign, and I got a bachelor's degree in science from Indiana University in labor studies. So I have this huge passion for labor and people's work. Obviously, that becomes very apparent why I did that, looking back based on inequality in wages before. And I just really hopeful that people can get what it is that is fair and equitable. I hope that women's sports do not lag behind as much as they have in the past. And I think we'll continue to see schools unionize, and I think this will become a norm instead of something new in the future here.
And I know that some of the schools on the East Coast, there are some schools that have done some unionization and now are looking at their student athletes as employees. And I know that, that's a whole nother show. I'll bring you back and we can talk about that and get into the weeds on that. I tell everybody all the time, there's that old adage, when you talk about equity, you have three individuals standing at a fence, right? You have a tall person, a medium height person, and a short person, right? Equity means that you give each of them what they need to look over that fence, right? The tall person doesn't need a box because he or she is tall. The medium person needs just enough so that he or she can look over that fence. But the shorter person needs a taller box, right? More equity, more access to look over that fence. I say all the time, I'm a girl dad. I say all the time that after I saw 3 years ago now NCAA tournament where the women had a rack of barbells, they had a couple stretch bands, they had a few jump ropes, and they had a table that had some pastries and some fruit and stuff like that on it. But then when you pan over to the men's side, full weight room, full fueling station, all those things. How far off are we, Sarah?
I want to be very optimistic and say not far, but I think in any type of change, in political change, advocacy, it all starts with education. You can't change someone's mind if they don't know what their mind should be thinking about. So I think there needs to be a lot more talk of things like that. Like that, I saw that picture on Twitter and it's still ingrained in my brain what that pathetic women's gym looked like or their workout session. So I think education is our first step. And I think if we get more voices, more folks like you out there saying this isn't right, and getting people who, as your example, are the tallest people at the fence, like they need to have the loudest voice. And I think it's leaning on those folks to help bring along the rest of the crew.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I believe that wholeheartedly. And I've always coached men's sports or boys sports, right? I've always been a girl dad. And so that means, so much more to me because when she gets to the point, Cheyenne is one of the, as a freshman in high school athletics, she's one of the better young women right now. She's a varsity player as a 15-year-old freshman. So she's going to be an individual that has more opportunities than most young women. And I tell her all the time, being a leader is not easy, right? You got to be the first one in, the last one out. The accountability level for you is higher than everybody else's because you're trying to hold somebody accountable, but you are going to be the light for everyone else, right? And so if she's going to be that light, I want to make sure that the access to the batteries and to the power, that she has that and is plugged in so she can shine bright, right? I tell her that all the time. So that's my dad moment. But
Love
the
it.
last thing before we close, Sarah, what does faith or spiritualness mean to you?
Yeah, I grew up playing basketball in a very small little Christian school in Indiana, and you know, the power of what we all believed and how we viewed each game, and a prayer before, but it really instilled this: there's a greater plan. There is something to be looking forward to. I think the less we try to plan our futures, the more God and the universe have lay out a path for us that's easier to see and follow. And just really knowing that everything does happen for a reason. And if it's not the way you want it to go, you have to remember it is for a good reason. It may not reveal itself ever to you, but having the faith that it was the right call for you at that time. And the path may reveal itself to you way, way, way down the line. So it just is this kind of a vision and a compass I try to keep in mind's eye.
That is awesome, Sarah. Thank you for sharing that. And Sarah, if individuals would like to get in contact with you and talk with you about your organization and what you're doing with retail politics, or anything that the retail that you were doing before, and they want to get into that, how can they get in contact with you?
Of course, you can always send me an email at S. Hummel. Folks call me Schummel because forever my email address was Schummel at BarackObama.com. And a lot of friends call me Shums, just stuck. But Schummel at myretailpolitics.com. You can also hop over to the website, which is myretailpolitics.com. And as a reminder, retail politics is a real word, and it's like the art and science of shaking hands, kissing babies, building authentic relationships with people on the ground level. And one closing thought here is that folks at Gallup will tell you that 70% about how someone feels about their job is how they feel about their manager. So if you are managing teams, like you are the responsibility for what it is that they think about their job every day. So I just wanted to remind folks that what a role leaders play in everyone's day-to-day life.
Absolutely. And when we talk about that a lot in the organization that I'm in right now, that it is our responsibility to lead by lifting up, right? Servant leaders don't lead from up here. Servant leaders lead from the grassroots, right? That you talked about. And they lead from supporting others, and allowing others to stand on their shoulders to get better. So again, that's a different show. We'll talk about that. But hey, Sarah, I really appreciate you. And George is a brother from a different mother, and now you are a sister from a different mister. So I really, truly appreciate you. Everything that you were talking about today is so important with regards to leadership, professional development, being a part of a team, and then your awesome, spectacular journey of helping to change our nation, right? And having an effective change in the world with your professional relationship with our former president, Barack Obama. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
I'm
very
going to
much.
call you Sister Shum.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sis Shum. I appreciate you for being on the show. So thank you so much.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're watching From the AD's View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. And before we leave, I just want to kind of talk to you about some of the things that Ms. Hummel and I were talking about. Leadership is tough. It is tough being a leader because you have to always not be thinking about yourself and the things that you want to do. You have to be thinking about others, right? Servant leadership is the best type of leadership to always have and always model, right? And champion servant leadership, because it's always about others. The business that I'm in, the ones that I serve, the constituents that I can serve are student athletes. And the only thing that I'm concerned about in my leadership role is making sure that their student success is at an all-time high. And then the other thing, the 1B that I'm concerned about, is their overall experience as a student athlete. And if I, as a leader, or if you, as a leader in what you're doing, are always concerned about others and how they can grow and develop, you will always meet and attain goals, and you will always have people that will run through walls, like we say in sports, run through walls for you. So that's a little bit that I can leave with you. Again, you're watching From the 80s View. I'm your host, Dr. Cedric Brown. Good night, and God bless.